Welcome to Troweling Down, Biblical Archaeology for the 21st Century. Hi, I'm Gary Byers, and this is our own personal rock star, Dr. Steve Collins, the director of the Tal El Hammam excavation in Jordan. This is episode 5, the last one that we had last month, and it comes out the first Friday of every month. The last episode was all about the subject of, is Sodom a myth? And a lot of people think it is, and yet the Bible treats it like a historical event, and archaeology says, yeah, we think it was.
We think it really was. I mean, if you go with the science, there's no way that Sodom didn't exist.
So that brings up what we're talking about today, and that is it really smart to excavate with a trowel in one hand and a Bible in the other?
Well, it's been challenged for sure, and I had a terrible thought when you did your intro for today's program.
Ooh.
You and I started doing archaeology in the 20th century.
Yes,
and now we're doing archaeology for the 21st century. That means we've been doing it for like 2 centuries.
Yeah, 2 centuries worth of archaeology.
Yeah, that's terrible. But anyway, yes, in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was back in 2007, I believe that's right. There was an article that came out. It was front page. I mean, we were top of the fold, front page of the Wall Street Journal, the Tal El Hammam excavation project.
They came and interviewed you.
Yes, they did.
Talked to some of the people on the date.
They sent a reporter.
Yep.
They sent a reporter out to the site, and here he came. And of course, you never know what you're going to get. You just don't know. And I was madder than a hornet when that article appeared in the Wall Street Journal.
Above the fold on the front page.
And the reason I was so upset about it, in fact, Carl Morgan had to call me and calm me down. He said, just let it go. Let it go. Any news is good news. Any publicity is good publicity. I said, oh, go away. But anyway, I thought, well, maybe that's true. The reason I was so upset was because they sort of played it off. I mean, they just kind of pushed it off, and it was sort of like making it look like stupid Christians going out and digging in the desert looking for Sodom. We were and always have been a completely legit scientific enterprise, the Tal El Hammam excavation project, and we've done it all right. In fact, we've had to do it maybe righter and better than a lot of people just because we're under so much scrutiny.
Yeah.
But anyway, in there, they quoted Dr. Bill Deaver. Now Bill Deaver is, I'm not going to say we're good buddies, but I've had him here lecturing to our students here in Albuquerque on a couple of occasions, and he's a terrific guy, brilliant, love the guy. He is one of the greats of what we call biblical archaeology, even though he went through a period where the word biblical archaeology wasn't exactly his thing.
Yeah.
But and he did take credit at least for writing the obituary for biblical archaeology back toward the end of the last century.
Yes.
And so he was quoted in that Wall Street Journal article, aiming at me. And here's what he said to me. He said, no responsible scholar goes out with a trowel in one hand and a Bible in the other. Well, how else am I supposed to take that personally? Now, we do jab each other back and forth. I mean, he jabs at me every time he sees me at American Schools of Oriental Research annual meeting in November. Always somewhere passing in the hallway, he'll say, Steve, still looking for Abraham, are you? And of course, my response is, found him, Bill. Found him. But the idea is that, most scholars, and he's not the only one.
No.
Most of the archaeological scholars do not believe that the Abrahamic narratives or that the patriarchal narratives in the book of Genesis have real historical value.
Okay, now this may surprise some people who are interested in archaeology in the Holy Land, biblical archaeology, that most archaeologists that are digging biblical sites do not actually believe in the historicity of the Bible, even in reference to that site.
Yes, that's probably true. That's probably true. Sad, but true.
There are many people of Christian faith, or Bible faith, who do archaeology
Yes.
and do good archaeology, scholars, well qualified to do the work,
Yes.
and there are many, but probably the majority are folks who do not hold the Bible as a historical document.
That's true.
And actually look down on any of us who do.
No, that's true. That's a fair statement. But I have an answer for Dr. Deaver.
Now in the article, they quoted you, talked to some of our team members, gave their own opinions, and then they asked Bill Deaver. Did they ask anybody else to give a comment on
I
that?
don't remember. It's been so long.
It was Deaver, so he made his comment. So you didn't get to put yours in the Wall Street Journal, but you had an answer.
But I have an answer. And the answer is, no responsible scholar worth his salt is going to go digging in the Holy Land without a Bible in one hand and a trowel in the other. Because the Bible, the worst case scenario about the Bible is this. It is still the best historical, geographical source that we have surviving from antiquity, period, for that part of the world. It just is. I'm sorry. I'm not going to make any apologies for it. It's the most detailed geographical collection we could possibly have, because these writers were what I call serial geographers.
What does that mean? Serial geography.
Well, it certainly doesn't mean that they started every morning eating Post Toasties.
Okay.
Not that kind of serial geographer. But they were, in other words, they never tell a story. As they move through the stories, never do they introduce a person, or rarely do they introduce a person or an event without first establishing place. Location is very, very important to the biblical writers. That's why there are so many terrific and very scholarly Bible atlases, historical Bible atlases, like Rainey's and Notley's Sacred Bridge.
Yeah.
It's based on the Bible.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to understand that the Bible is full of geographical references. And that's why, by the way, there are at least 25 different geographical indicators as to the location of Sodom in the Bible. There are 18 for Jerusalem.
Ooh.
There are 25 for Sodom, and that's why we thought, that ought to be able to be connected. We ought to be able to triangulate. We have 25 geographical indicators. We should be able to triangulate through those and find the location precisely. Well, guess what? We actually did, and it is there, and it was destroyed in a manner exactly as the Bible describes it, and I'm sorry, it's not my fault. The science tells us that it actually does exist, and the other cities too.
So that's the challenge in our world, as we're very comfortable with the term biblical archaeologists. We are archaeologists, but we do respect the Bible. We actually believe the Bible is the authoritative word of God, and we absolutely use it as a source to identify ancient sites.
Yeah, and my friend Anson Rainey, we had such a nice relationship, corresponding over the years about Sodom and the location. And by the way, he was about ready to re-edit and fix the location of Sodom in the Sacred Bridge when he passed
away.
Yeah. And by the way, I have all that in dialogue. We'll publish that one of these days.
Yes.
But anyway, because of Rainey, he was an atheist. And now, Anson Rainey was an atheist, and he always told me, we are worlds apart on opposite ends of the spectrum theologically. He always told me that.
Yeah.
He said, but I do believe that you can still do good archaeology. So he would say to me, I'm an atheist, and there may be some atheists that can do good archaeology, but still, you're an evangelical, but you can still do good archaeology. And that's because he knew that I thought my brain works geographically. Yeah. I'm a geographical person. He was a geographical thinker. Yeah. And we got along really well. And he said that once. He said, the reason you and I get along so well is because we both think geographically. And so, as a result of that, he didn't have a problem using the biblical text to find the proper location of Sodom.
Yeah. It's a massive book. And it's very expensive.
It's pretty
expensive.
But
boy, if you read it, if you use it, you see the value that he put on the Bible.
In fact, he said to me, he emailed me and he said, "My book just came out, The Sacred Bridge. I apologize for the price." Don't apologize. It's worth every penny.
It is. Most of us don't own our own copies. We use the library copy here because it is expensive, but it's the authoritative end work on the subject. At least it was when it came out. So just take a minute and let's just say a word about your biblical faith and archaeology. Why did you get into archaeology? You had a degree in anthropology from UNM right here in Albuquerque. So how did you get into archaeology? Because it certainly came out of your biblical background.
Well, that's really interesting because I had a friend. You knew Glenn Carnegie.
Yes.
I had a friend who was an archaeologist. He was a Dallas Seminary grad, but he's an archaeology guy.
Yeah.
He taught me pottery. He taught me the fundamentals of archaeology, and he was always trying to talk me into going to Jordan to excavate with him at the site of Abila.
Yes, up north.
And I did eventually go, but not to his site. I wound up going with Rami Arav to Bethsaida.
Yeah.
And so dug there many seasons, or many. Actually, I'm not a hot heat guy. In the summer, the main excavation was in the summer. So Rami would always meet me and our groups for excavation in the spring, early spring, like March, April. So we'd have a special session, and that was always great.
And that's why we dig Tal al-Hammam in January, February, and March.
Well, you couldn't dig at Tal al-Hammam in the southern Jordan Valley in the winter. I mean, in the summer. You'd have to do it in the winter.
Yeah. So anyway, back to how you got into this biblical archaeology deal.
Well, Glenn said, "Listen, you have an anthropology background, you have an archaeology background. You need to be doing that in the Holy Land. You need to come over here and do it over here." So I did finally go. He drugged me over there for like 30 days. Drugged me around the Holy Land, showed me his site. We went everywhere. And we did name him Wrong Way Glenn because he was always taking wrong turns and getting us lost. But I said, I got to go. So it was very shortly after that I wound up excavating. And
we excavated at Kirbet El Makadar
together
in the 90s.
For 6 years.
Just north of Jerusalem.
Yeah, for 6 years. And I was at Kersey and, of course, Bethsaida, and then at Kirbet El Makadar, and then wound up with the opportunity to open an excavation in Jordan and at Tal al-Hammam, which took me 5 years to get. I really had to found it was they were offering me every site in Jordan I could possibly want, but not that one. Why not that one? It really bothered me. But anyway, finally they relented. They said, "Okay, we're going to open it up to you." And I think part of it was the landmines, because they had somebody from K. Prague's team back in the 90s get a foot blown off, I think, or something, because of a landmine when they tried to do a little probe over at Tal al-Hammam. So I don't know if that was part of it, but there was another issue which they shared with me, and I said, "I'm not going to do that to you." They kind of got, I'm not even going to go into it. But anyway, they let me do it, and they loved the proposal. And now, where are we? 15 years later.
Yeah.
Going into season 16. So, and it's been great. It's been a great run. But that's where my heart's always been in the archaeology. And it wasn't because I didn't have in my mind to go over and prove the Bible. I didn't have to have the Bible proved to me. It wasn't necessary. Now, it's possible to do that. I really think that. It's possible to demonstrate the historical character, historical authenticity of the Bible, but it wasn't necessary for me to do that. For me,
right.
But my interest was, and I had the theological background. I had the theological degrees. I was a graduate of the biggest theological seminary in the world. And so I understood all of that. But what I was really interested in was the physical, tangible, historical background of the Bible, the reality of it.
Yes.
The theology was one thing. But I had for years been saying the Bible is not first and foremost a book of theology. The Bible is first and foremost a book of history.
Yeah.
And to me, I decided if I was going to talk about the Bible and I was going to interest people in the Bible and people were going to ask me questions about the Bible, I wanted to be able to do it from an archaeological perspective. And so I threw everything I had into archaeology. I mean, literally my whole life. And so been doing it ever since. Got the degrees, got the stuff, got everything I needed to do it, and here I am.
Yep, both digging and teaching at universities here in the U.S., teaching students, and many of them pastors, teaching them the truth, the power of archaeology in understanding the Bible.
And I'm just cantankerous enough where if people say things that people have theories about things in the Bible, and they say them, and I look at that and it doesn't seem to square with reality, square with the facts on the ground, and then I have to figure out what's the truth.
Yeah.
So I go and I investigate that, and Sodom was part of that.
Yeah.
And so everybody had it in the wrong place, and the Bible said it was in another place, and I had to go check it out. And it was worth checking out because the record needed to be set straight.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to be supporting the Bible or making our maps incorrectly.
Right.
Let's get it right. Let's make it precise. Let's have good archaeological and good scientific reasons for doing so. And if we do that properly, then we can change the way people think about the Bible. And it does tend to reinforce the idea that the Bible is historically credible. It's historically reliable.
And just as we close up, why is that important to you? Why is it important to you that people see the Bible as a credible historical document?
Well, if you can trust it for history, you can certainly trust it for your spiritual life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it has profound things to say.
Yeah.
And but I do believe that Jesus rose from the dead on the basis of the historical evidence, not because the Bible tells me so.
Yes, you absolutely believe the Bible, but as a Bible-believing guy, the real power for you is to see the historical evidence that such an event really could have, and you believe did, in a particular location at a particular time in history.
The Bible writers are unique for folks for antiquity.
Yeah. Yes.
They are rigorous about the history they write. They are rigorous about the facts they include.
Yeah.
And if the Bible is the Word of God, which I believe it is, that just gives you a one-up. But I've often told people that even if God had nothing to do with the Bible, even if God had nothing to do with the Bible at all, it's still a perfectly reliable historical source for everything it talks about.
So
you can trust it, period.
Even if the theological stuff isn't true, if the God's not involved in it, it's just flat out good history.
It is.
And it'd be a shame for any archaeologist who's dealing in the biblical world to not have a Bible in one hand with his trowel in the other.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of colleagues that don't agree with us.
Right.
Now, I always say, it's a free country. It's not a free world, but it's a free country so far.
Here.
And you have a right to be wrong if you want. I've been looking at the Bible, slicing it, dicing it, looking at that for every possible angle for, I don't even want to say how long, but at least 50 years. And in the light of that, I see absolutely nothing in the Bible that I can't take as historical fact. And I know that a lot of people out there are screaming, a lot of archaeologists and historians are out there screaming, no, you can't take this, you can't take that, you can't believe this, you can't believe that. My answer is why? Give me your specific criteria as to why that. And and they all believe in the documentary theories that Moses didn't write the Pentateuch, that it was all pious fiction written by Judahite priests sometime around the Babylonian captivity. That is absolute. It's literary nonsense. It's historical nonsense. It's archaeological nonsense. It should be thrown out, put in the trash, and it should be just dumped. Dump that theory, you guys. And when you dump that theory, come up with something else that's realistic. But I promise you dump that theory, your view of the Bible is going to change. You only reject the historical credibility of the Bible because you accept an old, hackneyed 19th century theory that should have been mothballed 100 years ago.
Tell us how you really feel about this subject. You get passionate about this.
Well, I do, and that's why I'm a good investigator. because I want to know what the truth is. Listen, I'm not afraid of the archaeological truth, the historical truth, the literary truth, whatever it is. That doesn't bother me. I started out, there's a whole lot of stuff I believed when I was younger about the Bible, about the world, about God, about archaeology that I don't think is right now.
Because you were open.
My views because I always want to go with the evidence. Where the evidence leads me, that's where I'm going to go. And I'm not afraid of that.
And as a man of faith, you should not be afraid of truth.
No.
And so you can boldly step out to look at any possible understanding of Bible or history or geography, any aspect.
And I'm not afraid to go, I hate to even say this, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
What a profound thought.
But if we decide to do that, to go where, not be afraid to go where the evidence leads us, even if nobody else has gone there before, there is someone who's gone there before us.
Yeah.
Because God is omniscient.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a path we walk alone.
No, absolutely not. All right, so folks have got to hear a little bit about what you think about all of this. It'd be great to have them come and join us to dig one time, right?
They should come and dig.
And why should they?
Because it's one of the requirements for heaven. No, just kidding. St. Peter's not going to ask you, you didn't dig at Tal Hammam. Sorry.
Good, that's good
that's
news.
That's not going to be a part of it.
It is a requirement for our students.
It is a requirement for the students, yes. But you'll just love it. You come and dig, and you'll probably get hooked, because about 80% of the people who come and dig with us are repeats from previous years.
That's true.
So you're probably going to get hooked. We'll tell you that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But come dig. There's nothing. Touring the Holy Land is good, but digging the Bible lands is, there's nothing like it. To actually be digging into that dirt that gave rise to the reality of the biblical record. I mean, that's just cool.
So if somebody wants to dig with us at Tal al-Hammam, how should they get in touch with us?
They need to call Dr. Glenda Austin at 505-33-BIBLE. 505,
that's our New Mexico area code here in Albuquerque. And then 505 33
Bible.
Bible. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then is there any other way to get in touch with us?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go online, talalhammam.com.
Or dig Sodom.
Digsodom.com. Go out on your back porch and yell at the top of your lungs, I want to dig at Sodom, and somebody may answer.
We'd love to have them, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we'd love to have you digging with us.
And hopefully for you, it will impact you like it's impacted our own lives. Nothing like digging in the dirt yourself and finding things that were part of the biblical world. It's just a life-changing experience. We hope you'll engage in that with us sometime. Well, our next, now we come out the first Friday of every month, and next month we're actually going to talk about some artifacts from the site. And in fact, it started with very early in the excavation, year 1, 2, or 3. You remember, we found one particular piece of pottery, and it just sort of turned everything upside down. Just a teaser about the next episode.
Yeah, we're going to show it to you up close and personal.
Yeah, but that's the teaser.
That's the teaser.
So tune in next month, because you'll get to see it up close and personal, and it's got family and friends.
It does.
And we'll show you them too.
Yes, we'll show you those too.
So now, if you're listening to us on some sort of one of the many media that we have out there, you can't see us unless you're on YouTube. Join us on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us with all these different media outlets that we have, and you'll be able to join us next month for a special view of one of the most important artifacts we feel like we found at the site. And
it may be, in fact, this collection and all the other things associated with it may be one of the most important discoveries in the history of biblical archaeology.
That's a teaser. Can't wait. This is Digging Down, Troweling Down Archaeology for the 21st Century. This is Gary Byers and Dr. Steve Collins. We're really glad to have you join us, We hope you join us again next month.